Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome by Katerina Canelidou and 𝗕𝗀𝗺𝗺 from Team Coaching Global Alliance. And this is our last day and the very last session of the Team Coaching Global Summit. It's time to bring the spotlight on team coaching models with Dr. Ellen Zimmerman, Linda Aiyer, and 𝗬𝗲 Bassil. Feel free to say hi in the chat and where you are joining us from. We will have 60 minutes together, so please keep your microphone on mute to avoid distraction. During these 60 minutes, our team coaches are going to present their unique team coaching approach or their model. Each will have 15 minutes. At the end, we will hope to have a few minutes left for questions. Oh, I forgot to move on with the slides. And here are our experts. A few words about our experts. Ellen Zimmerman is an executive and leadership coach working with individuals and teams with a focus on the areas that matter most: communications, leadership, human relations, and strategic direction. Ellen specializes in communication skills for difficult conversations, as well as real-world scenarios that support leadership skill development. Linda Aiyer is an international coach and facilitator, coach educator, mentor, and assessor working with multinational corporations in the US, Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Africa. She has been actively coaching for the past 15 years with over 8,500 hours of experience and believes that every one of us has inherent mastery, and sometimes all we need is a thinking or accountability partner to bring this to the fore. And 𝗬𝗲 Bassil is an executive and leadership coach, team coach, and organizational psychologist with a solid experience of more than 50 years in the training field in several industries in Lebanon and the Middle East. Passionate about bringing people potential to life, 𝗬𝗲 empowers professionals to reach their aspiration and to make sustainable change while keeping their authenticity. If you will have questions that we will not have time to answer during this presentation, we will put the link of the LinkedIn post in the chat, so you can add your questions there. We are going to start first with Linda's model, Team Site. We will continue with Ellen's model, I, and then 𝗬𝗲 will present us how Lego serious play can be applied for team coaching. So that's from me, and I think it's time for Linda to start with her model.
Thank you so much, Katerina. Thank you so much, 𝗕𝗀𝗹𝗵𝗁. Hi, everyone. As you know, I'm Linda Aiyer. I'm actually dialing in from a very wintry South Africa. So for those of you that are enjoying summer, I'm jealous right now. So actually, I just want to say that I really feel privileged to be able to share my model with you, especially here at this Team Coaching Global Summit as well. And I hope you enjoy it. So let me quickly share my screen and can keep me on the straight and narrow as well. Okay, I think that's it. All right, so when I first started actually team coaching, I actually thought that I could use exactly the same competencies that I would typically use with an individual with the team, because after all, what is a team? It's a group of individuals that are working together. But then I actually registered for the Team Coaching Global Certificate, and I realized very quickly that I was completely wrong. What I was doing was not team coaching at all. And Jonathan, Carl, and Katerina very quickly put me on the straight and narrow in terms of this. I actually realized that I actually had a lot of learning to do. And I started thinking about, what are some of the competencies then that I need to start developing? What is team coaching, in the first place? And so as I started pondering, about that and what my journey as a team coach is going to look like, I came across these words and it really, really landed with me in a very powerful way. And so I want to share it with you as well. So let's move this along. There we go. All right. So when we realize that we are always in relationships, part of human relationship systems, impacting and being impacted, our attention starts to shift. We develop skills to interact with others, some successful, others not so. When a team comes together an intangible team entity is created. It has a voice of its own, and we access it by shifting our attention away from the individuals to the center of the system, being the team. That really, really landed with me, as I said, very, very powerfully. And it actually started the process for me in terms of figuring out how would I actually coach a team going forward. So where did my model begin? How did it actually start to come to life? Coincidentally, when I was needing to actually put my model together, I was also reading 𝗬𝗏𝗺's book, Leading from the Future as It Emerges. And so I also picked up on some of his words as well that really resonated with me. You can see I'm often inspired by words, right? So he says the quality of the yield, the visible result, is a function of the quality of the soil, those elements of the field that are most invisible to the eye. And that really struck me. I started thinking a lot about this concept of the quality of the soil. And what would that actually mean from a team perspective? How does it relate to a team? And specifically, what conditions might a team need to actually bring into play in order to create a fertile environment where it can grow, it can achieve impactful results, it can sustain itself, holistically speaking. So my model actually started off a lot with research around soil and what are the various layers that constitute ground as we know it. And so as I started thinking about that and applying it to the team perspective, I started looking at, okay, so what does the ground of a team look like? What does that internal landscape of a team look like? And this is what I came up with initially. So it is about looking at, okay, the bedrock values and beliefs of the team as a collective, its worldview, attitudes, biases, even thoughts, feelings, what are the dynamics of the team? So this was, one part of the picture, if I can say, what was going on with the team internally. And as you can see, all of these things impact how that team may show up externally as well. And so as I started to hold that, I realized, yes, this is important. It is integral to the team coaching process, but it's not the full picture. This is just the start, really speaking. And so I brought in then, in developing my model, if you can say that, I brought in then the external environment to give a more holistic picture. So we've got the ground, which as you can see is labeled here as the internal environment. And then I brought in the external environment. Now from a team context, what was that linking to? That was your team competencies, its behaviors, its actions, its results, and of course, even the macro environment. I'm sure we can have a whole summit just on the macro environment at the moment, right? But it's really all of those external factors that impact an organization and impact a team specifically as well. So we've got now a bit of a picture forming here. And as I started looking at this, I realized actually, I feel like the team coaching process actually takes place at the center of this tree image. So where we would see the trunk of the tree, if I can say it like that. And it happens in a very circular way, in a 360-degree process as well, taking the external environment as well as the internal environment of the tree into consideration. Okay, so holding that in mind, I started putting the pieces together. And this is where you would see the visual representation of my model starting to emerge. Right? So this last picture, as you can see, I took the tree image and I started to see, oh, okay, there's a bit of a triangle here at the top representing the external landscape. There's a bit of a triangle at the bottom representing the internal landscape. And then I put in a circle, which actually then represented that 360 team coaching process in the middle. Now, the more I looked at this, and I turned it around, I played with it a little bit, I started to see an eye. I'm not sure if you can see it, but that's what I saw. And 𝗬𝗏𝗺's words again came to mind. And I think this landed it for me. So he said, you cannot change a system unless you can transform its consciousness. And you cannot transform consciousness unless you make the system see and sense itself. And that just landed for me. It brought it all home for me. And that's why I present to you my model, which is called Team Sight. And this model actually, it's about allowing teams the opportunity and the space to really see themselves, not just externally in terms of results, but also in terms of what was happening below the surface. And this is what my model actually looked like. So as you can see, there's an I here. In the middle of the I is actually the team coaching process. And you will see there's the process itself is expressed through the acronym SIGHT, which stands for Story, Illuminate, Generate, Harness, and Transform, which I will explain very shortly. And all of that process actually takes place in a space of attention, where we are paying attention to the 360-degree landscape of their team, while allowing them the opportunity, the creativity, the freedom to chart their own way forward in a way that feels meaningful and authentic for that particular team. So the allowing and the attention is the environment in which that particular process is happening. So what does SIGHT actually stand for? And as I said, it is actually, oh, there we go, actually. So the S actually is for your story. You know, starting off with unpacking the story, the narrative of the team. What is its context, its background? What are the strengths and limitations of their team? What are the opportunities and challenges that they might be facing as well? You know, so really just understanding what do they have to celebrate versus, you know, what they may not be looking forward to for that matter. What is the story they're telling themselves about themselves for that matter? And then the I is actually for illuminating. What is currently working? What's not working? What needs to be done differently? Now, those two steps are actually around the current reality of their team, really getting a sense and probing into where they are at the moment. Then we move to the G, and the G is already, as you see, starting to move into the shifting process, shifting them towards their desired future. So the G is about generating the team vision, that clarity of direction in terms of where it is they're wanting to get to. The H is about harnessing the collective intelligence of the team. And this is, for me, actually such a crucial step when we start to actually, you know, start working with them as a system, accessing that intelligence that's sitting there collectively in terms of, you know, that emerging team identity. And that might be things like, what are their shared values? You know, what are the factors that they are needing in order to create the environment that they want to? Eventually, we're getting to a place of transforming. And this happens when the way forward is actually articulated and charted. And this is where the team is actually able to then say, what are our new roles and responsibilities? Who's going to be accountable? You know, are we even committed to this process? If not, how do we get there? You know, what are some of our timelines that we're needing to work on? And I think very importantly, what could get in our way? Because that's important to, you know, continue that movement, so to speak. So this, as you can see, this is the I, the first I, as I'd like to call it. And it's really about creating movement for the team from where they were to the desired future that they're actually moving towards. But, and I think I kind of gave it away a little bit, there is another I. And we can't forget that part of it. And the second I is really about the qualities that the team needs to embody in order to provide a safe container, to create that environment, the conditions for sustained performance, for trust, for growth. And again, I'm going to say to you that, you know, we see here, this I is also expressed through the acronym SIGHT, slightly different, though I must add. And what does it actually stand for? So for this I, the SIGHT is really about seeing, continuing to see and acknowledging each other. The I is for including different perspectives, different personalities, different forms of diversity as well. Generosity, that's the G. Generosity of thought and action, supporting each other as you may need to. The H is for heart or holding, providing a holding space for each other, engaging the heart, not just the mind. And the T is for trust, continuing to build trust and understanding each other's trust currency. Now that as well happens in a space of attention where we are paying attention, really attending to each other and, you know, allowing each other to really bring our authenticity to the fore as well. So where the first I was about creating movement, the second I is about creating a holding space. And as you can see, both are important. So if we look at just holistically the model of team site, this is what it would actually look like. And as I've put on here, both of these I's would be fully engaged in a high-performing, intentional, capacitated team. And as a team coach, this is the space that we ideally want to get them to. So that's actually my model. And I want to really thank you for listening. I would be more than happy to take any questions that you may have or listen to any comments that you may have at this point. Thanks, Katerina.
Thank you very much, Linda. And I think we have 3 minutes to see if there is, if there is any question that we can take. And okay, sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. Also, and those of you who were with us during the session, the panel conversation about the future of coaching, you will see the reference of the conversation we had there. And it touches on several topics we discussed, from collective consciousness to the levels also that we need in order to change or apply the new knowledge to get to the desired outcome. So yeah, it brought to my mind the conversation from the panel of that. Okay, very elegant model, lovely model. Love the visualization, nice use metaphors. And also another reference, as I was listening to Linda, was the reminder from the session about the setting goals for your team coaching practice. It was how you differentiate yourself and the importance of create your own team coaching model. If we have quickly time for answer, what are the tools used? So Serge asking, what are the tools used in the model and where can we find the case study?
Okay, so I think, many others would also share, there's just so many tools, that we can use in this space. I mean, just being on the team coaching global certificate as well, Katerina, Carl, Jonathan, you've shared many with us as well. I'm also a qualified systemic coach as well. And so I use a lot of those tools, with team coaching. I find that, there's certain individual tools that you can use, but I suppose the application is important in terms of applying it from a systemic perspective, as opposed to just seeing it from an individual perspective. There's a lot at this point in time, and I'm not able to necessarily name them. But I think it's definitely something worth, researching in terms of what could you use. For those of you that are interested, I think, really reading a lot more around team coaching, engaging with, different resources as well around that, building team intelligence. That's helped me a lot in terms of what I use to be able to facilitate this process for my teams as well.
Thank you, Linda. And it gives us also an idea of you writing a case study. I know, I see from the coaching group, they are always looking for new entries and articles. So thank you very much. And thank you, everyone. So you had more comments, yeah. And how and Debbie comments how the model resonates with her. Brilliant. And exactly on time. Thank you very much. And I think it's time to move on now with Ellen.
Hello, everyone. I am sharing my slides now, I believe. So my model really developed out of that just everyday connection you're making with the team as a whole. And I wanted to keep it simple so that it would be something that was usable for team coaches, that it was understandable by the people in the team. And so let me just walk through some of these steps. And I called it 𝗧𝗲𝗃, which I think is interesting because we have a different I that Linda just shared. So the I seems to work in more than one form. But the 𝗧𝗲𝗃 model is basically about taking the team from more of a self-focus to a collective focus. It begins with deeper connections and respect. It transitions into better understanding of the team components and the clarity of the goals for the team's success. It ends with an agreed upon process and kind of this new method of operation where everyone supports each other and they work toward the highest achievement for the team and less focus on individual. It continues based on the skills that are learned throughout the process. And I always like to tell people, you know, the best that I can wish for you is that when I leave, you still continue to work together and process this in this fashion. So before team coaching, you'll often see situations where people are off to themselves, maybe talking on the phone. You have a new employee potentially with question marks, and they're like, I really don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. You might have a team that are not doing productive conversation, but they're talking about an individual in a negative way. They might be shopping because they're so confused. They don't know what they want to do. They're on the internet shopping. And you might actually have someone over here at the bottom right of the screen with images that is actually working, and they're working toward goals that need to be completed, but maybe they're in a silo and they're not really communicating with the rest of the team. What you hope to see after team coaching is that these individuals are much more connected. They might be on the phone discussing the project and who's working on what aspect. They might be meeting up to talk about different aspects of the project and the timeline, and they're connecting on their own. It's very comfortable. They reach out when they have questions, and they prepare ahead of time to make sure there's success with the team. The stage one, or the first phase of the team coaching model that I call the I, we, I, is I from an individual standpoint. It's not intended to be like I in a conceited or negative way. It's just individuals understand their role best, and they show up and they perform what they feel is needed or how they feel it's needed to be successful, more focused on themselves. And that's partly just because that's what they know. If they're not connected with the whole team and they don't have that comfort level where they can reach out to each other, they're going to perform based on what they know individually. The we stage, which is where you spend the majority of time working with the team, is about how do you connect this team and make the atmosphere more trusting and help them to know each other a little better. And the process I like to use for this is to actually begin with small group activities. And everything I do, I use activities as much as possible. And I'll share a little more about that in just a minute. But the concept here is that you're really trying to spend the time, whether it's some team building or whether it's sharing topics. Maybe you give them each in a team setting where you have separate tables. I like to aim for 5 people at a table, and I like to give each of them a particular topic or maybe split the room and have them have a conversation and come back with some feedback to debrief for the large group. And when I do that, they're getting this conversation and discussion going with the 5 people. So just 5 people will kind of give you an opportunity to get to know each other better and get more comfortable. And when they do that and they share back to the larger group, then you're gradually bringing them into the whole, which is the goal you have for a team, is that they're a whole and they work together very well. One of my favorite ways to do that, or the most effective way I find to bring a team to that point where they're really comfortable and trusting, is to provide them with some type of a communication style assessment. Now, personally, I prefer DISC, and there are many different ones you can pick from, but the fact that they will understand their style of communication, they'll also understand other individual styles of communication, and they'll be more familiar with the priorities that make people the way they are. It brings respect and an appreciation of our differences to the table. And I find that that's one of the most important things to do with a team, is get them to that space where they're not trying to defend or put their thoughts on the whole group, as that's the decision we need to make, but where they're more curious and where they're more open to hearing what everyone has to say. So this is the part where you will spend definitely the most time, is getting them in that comfortable circle mode. The best opportunity or best situation I can remember from working with the team was when there was a lot of heated conversation. They naturally ended in a circle. I didn't do that. They just naturally got in a circle where they all shared their thoughts. So stage 3 of the 𝗬𝗏𝗏 model is where the I changes. It's no longer more of an individual focus on how I can be successful and support the team. It's more about what can I do to support the team as a whole, and how does what I do impact the team. So this stage is really more about the collective whole and making sure that everyone's included when need to be. If there's a project or something goes wrong, which things go wrong, that's just normal. And if they go wrong, instead of making assumptions, reaching out and connecting with the other people that can help support you to get things back on track so the team is successful and achieves their goals on time. So how do I know where to begin with the team? This is another aspect that's somewhat challenging when you have a team and you're contracting. You know, at the beginning, you speak with the contact person you have about the agreement and the contract and what it will look like. And I have a list of questions that are regularly asked to kind of get a better feel for where is this team really? Because everybody hates the arrangement where you contract and you go in and it's like, oh, this is not where I thought this team was going to be. It's definitely a different change when that happens. But if you use a version of Tuckman's stages of group development, if you're not familiar with this, I highly recommend you look into it. It helps you to look at behaviors and get a feel for where this team may be in their progress of how well they work together. So forming, you know, that's just that beginning of getting acquainted and getting to know each other. And it goes on through all these different behaviors for each aspect. And when you can see that path on where they are, you can help to guide the comfort level and the trust level with the group and get them to talk more. Now, one of the challenges that you have with teams is hearing from everyone, making sure everyone feels included, and just keeping them all in agreement on what they want to talk about. Because I see a very high parallel between individual coaching and team coaching, because you're doing a lot, you know, all of the same things. You're keeping them on track. You're getting a collective goal and agreeing on what the topic of conversation is at the moment. So this process works well for me. Keeping it light. So people kind of look at this and like, you bring stuffed animals to your team coaching sessions? Every time. I bring stuffed animals, and I bring these as representations of how we want the meeting to go, clarity, and it keeps it light. If the team has a common communication language and a way to address things, they will take care of it, and the peers will work together and coordinate more. So let me explain more about this. The first image on the left there is basically squirrels, and those squirrels squeak. I put one of those on each table, and everyone knows that you can be in a meeting where the topic of conversation suddenly changes from where you started. And people call that a parking lot topic sometimes. We've gotten off track and we need to save that topic for another conversation. Now, the team will always decide, is this a parking lot topic, or is this a new topic we need to set for our agreement of conversation? But the squirrel is something that they can squeak, and it keeps people laugh. So it keeps it light. It's not, okay, that's a parking lot topic, we don't need to talk about that, which feels more uncomfortable. They're self-managing their conversations this way, and it gives us the opportunity to stop and say, what topic do we need to focus on at the moment, and take a vote, so to speak, get consensus from the team. That may be a topic that we can talk about at a later meeting. Good topic, let's save it. But we need to focus on this particular topic and go move forward. The elephant in the room, if you're not familiar with that conversation, use of language, it's basically that topic or conversation that everyone there knows needs to be talked about, but everyone avoids it. It's that topic that could potentially be the breakthrough for what this team needs to have a conversation about. So the elephant in the room, and I clarify all of this at the very start so everyone knows what this looks like. And the elephant is in the room rather, is when we bring out the elephant and we're going to talk about it. We're going to dig into it. We're going to be respectful, be curious, and have a conversation, because sometimes that is the breakthrough for that team to be successful. The heart is there because in conversations, we sometimes have a heated topic. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing at all. That's another ideal opportunity to say, this was important to somebody. The person that steps up and they sound more aggressive maybe when they have their statement with the team, that's something where you need to know that's important to the person. So the heart at the beginning, I explain to people that where there's heat, there's heart. And where there's heart, something is important. That's where we pause and ask, I can see this is important to you. What do we need to know about this? So these offer a common language and a comfortable way to deal with some of the things that come up in our team coaching conversations. So how do I support these conversations? I use activities, just like I said earlier, I use them as much as possible, not like activities that aren't relevant, but activities that connect with the challenges or topics the team is facing. So sometimes I'll have teams that identify, here are our priorities and topics we want to talk about before the first session. And it may change, but we show up and we have somewhere to begin so the team knows they own the conversation. Sometimes the first session is about identifying what the team coaching conversations will be. If there are topics, once again, that might be heated or they're difficult, challenging topics for people that are in the team, I will use activities for that. Using activities allows me to keep some of the emotion out of the conversation and focus on the details and specifics of the process or the topic or whatever that the focus for the team is. The arrow across the bottom is representative of my shift. If I use activities and my goal is to move away from activities and only have a conversation. But depending on how the team is working together, I will slide one way or the other. So if the team is beginning to self-regulate and feel comfortable and be respectful and curious and engage in a way that is more productive, I guess I'll say, then I will decrease, I will eliminate activities, and we will simply have very deep conversations where people already know to share the space and be curious and ask questions. Anytime it goes back to a more challenging or heated topic, I will look for one of my activities that I use to represent that topic. And I'd love to go in more detail, but I don't have time. I am actually putting a book together about all this, and thank you, 𝗕𝗀𝗃, prompted by all of the training that I had with them and the thought-provoking conversations. But activities are something you need to have in your back pocket, which means just handy for when you need them, to keep the team from pointing fingers and getting aggressive and feeling uncomfortable, but focusing on the actual details and the challenge at hand. So I left time for any questions, Katerina. I know it's a short overview.
Not really. There is a lot of, but you sparked a sharing of what we bring. So by the time once we start sharing what we bring and how we travel for the engagements, there is a conversation, and maybe again, maybe at the end we can go back to this conversation about the maturity of the coach or the team coach in our case. And I couldn't help but also connect what you said with the opportunity of the animals and what do you do actually, how you choose to work with them, about what Jonathan Rage were saying last week, the intentions of our tools. So what are intentions by using the tools that we choose to use? Thank you very much. And I think it's time to now go and play. So Sandy, you will take us to play with a very familiar for some of us, I don't know if it's tool model, how it is said, Lego serious play, and this time it will be focused on how Sandy is using it in team coaching.
All right, hello everyone. Let me tell you the story of the Lego Serious Play. My story with the Lego Serious Play in team coaching. Like 3 years ago, when I finished my certification with 𝗕𝗀𝗃𝗃, I was very looking forward to find a tool, a practical tool that would help me in my team coaching engagements. I don't know why the idea of the Lego Serious Play came up to my mind. Although in the initial research that I've done about the Lego Serious Play and the companies that I have contacted where they provide the certification, everybody said it's a facilitation tool. It's not a team coaching tool. But I insisted and I said, I'm sure we can find something to do with this tool. So we went and we did the certification. So a very brief background about the Lego Serious Play. It started in 1996 when two professors at the IMD in Switzerland and the owner of the Lego group, they were exploring alternatives to strategic planning tools and systems. So they used the Lego elements as kind of a tangible tool, 3D model of business issues and challenges. They used it for strategic thinking and strategic decisions and facilitating these discussions. And so the strategy that we used was called or named the Lego Serious Play. And moving forward in 2010, it became an open source and people just get certified in the tool, and there is no specific person or company that does the certification. So very briefly, if I want to explain what it is, it's a methodology that uses Lego bricks to explore complex topics, build consensus about the topic, generate new ideas, and the participants can create something really greater than the sum of its parts. So when I read this, I thought, okay, that would be a very good base for team coaching. So why not? Let's see what we can do with this tool. So how did I use this in team coaching? This is what I'm going to present to you and to give you some examples of where did I use it in the team coaching engagement. So in team coaching, why it is powerful, because the team members externalize their thoughts. The thoughts become tangible. They become something they can move, they can add on, they can remove, or they can exchange, and they can agree or disagree with. So they can explore complex dynamics in a very tangible and visual way. So they can see it and it becomes externalized, as I said. So how does it work? And what is the process of the Lego Serious Play? Well, the process is very systematic, and it looks very much like the facilitation of the Lego Serious Play. The difference is mainly in the questions and the type of questions that we ask using the tool. So the first step is to start with individual models. And here I go back to Ellen, it's the I, okay, how I view whatever the topic that you are saying or talking about. So in the individual model, each team member builds his or her own model that represents their own perspective on a specific question that we are asking as coaches. Example of questions could be, what does effective collaboration look like to you on this team? Or what is the culture that you like to have in this team? Okay, any type of question, and they start individually building this model. After they build, they do the building of the Lego bricks, it's time now to share their stories. So they share, each and every one in the team shares his or her own story, and they tell the story of their mother. This way, we make sure that everyone in the team is included, everyone is communicating, and everyone is sharing. Actually, they would have to. There is no, which doesn't give an excuse for the silent people not to share. So kind of, this is the process and everyone agrees on it. The storytelling builds this mutual understanding and create really a psychologically safe space. No one is dominating the conversation. Everybody has exactly the same amount of time to speak and share. The next level, the next step, is to move into a shared model. Now, when we say a shared model, that's the common thing, that's the model that all the team members build together. So it is the collective perspective of all the team members about the specific topic we are discussing. So as a team coach, I facilitate this shared model building by asking a question that is usually built on the individual model. So first I build the individual model and then we go to the shared model. So if, let's say we were working on the culture, the individual model question would be, what culture do I want to see or do I see important in this team? The shared model would be a question like, what kind of culture do we want to create? And here we move to the we. So, and they start building, putting together the ideas that they found interesting, important, useful from the individual models. And after they build the share model, we give them time to discuss, to vote, to change, in case anyone has, after they have built the model, they have a different idea. Or I hear a lot of, now that I see it this way, I think we need to change this. Or I think there's something that we have missed. So we give time for this until they all agree on this shared model that they want to create. So after they do the shared model, the next step would be definitely to vote and to set actions of what they are going to do in order to achieve that shared model. This is one way of using it. Another way of using it, I used it once in a very long team engagement, the longest I had, which was 1 year. So the first session that I have used, I used the Lego series play in the first session for goal setting. And the actions that were after the shared model is, what are our obstacles? And each obstacle was a goal moving forward in the team coaching engagement. In other words, this is what we need to overcome for us to become that shared model that we have created. So the shifting from the I to the we includes negotiation of the meaning, aligning around the goals, and seeing this team as a separate living entity that is visualized in using the Lego bricks. So the steps would be in this way. We start with the individual metaphor building, like, for example, what does psychological safety look like to you? Then we move to the shared model building. The question would be, build a shared model that represents a psychologically safe team, and they agree on it. At a longer exercise, we go to systemic thinking, and we let them think of the agents in their system that are influencing the shared model or could influence the shared model that they have created. So the question would be, who or what in the system reinforces safety or what would ruin it? And using also the Lego bricks and the connectors of the Lego, we let them examine and represent the interconnectedness of these agents or elements in their system, how the interconnectedness is, and how solid it is, and what the impact would be, how much impact it has actually on this shared model that they have created. So this is an example of a shared model at the systemic level. So these connectors show the level of interconnectedness between the elements in the system. From my experience using the Lego Serious Play in team coaching, I would say it's one of the most useful tools that, at least for me, because everybody likes to play. And I found out that many people like Lego a lot. So, and it brings very useful conversations to the table and very meaningful conversations to the table. And what is very unique and I love about Lego is that we can change it, they can change it, they can move it. And then we take a video and they can review the video of the story of the shared model. So every shared model has a story, and this is the team story. This is how the team views their story with regards to the goal that we are discussing and they are trying to achieve. Now, how does this relate to the ICF team coaching competencies? The Cultivate Trust and Safety team coaching sub-competencies, really they tick all the boxes with the Lego Serious Play, creating and maintaining a safe space for open and honest interaction, promoting the team viewing itself as a single entity with a common identity. That shared model becomes the entity, that single entity that represents the team. It fosters expression of the team members and collective feelings, perceptions, concerns, beliefs, and suggestions. It encourages participation and contribution by all team members because this is the rule of the Lego Serious Play. Everybody participates. It allows them to reflect on team rules and the norms. What's working in this team, for this shared model? What's not working for this shared model? And promotes effective communication within the team. And for evoking awareness, use question and other techniques. I consider the Lego as the other techniques that we use to foster team development and facilitating the team ownership of their collective dialogue. So, example of times where I used Lego Serious Play or the possible use, building a model of a desired culture can be done through Lego. Building a model of the best version of the team, building a model of the shared values within the team, and building a model of the team being highly synchronized one. So very simply, it can be the individual model would be what is or what are the components or the elements of a highly synchronized team. And the shared model question would be, build a model that represents a highly productive and synchronized team, and then we bring the conversation on that model. So cases where I have used, I'm on time, Katrina, I finished, so I'm closing with the cases. Cases where I have used the Lego Serious Play, I used it to set the goals for the coaching engagement. For shorter engagement, I used the Lego Serious Play to, after the intake sessions and understanding the concerns of the team, I built the questions of the individual models and the shared models based on what I heard from them in the intake sessions. And within shorter time, like 2 sessions, we could bring the team to set actions already. And we represented this in using red bricks and green bricks. So once we build the shared model, for example, of a highly productive team, I asked them to put red bricks that would represent the obstacles for them to achieve that model. And then I asked each one of them to add a green brick on top of the red one, which would be, from their perspective, the solution. And then after having this discussion, I facilitated the discussion of, so what are the actions moving forward? What are you going to do as a team? What are you going to commit to? And we went to the action planning part. So this is it for me. I think right on time for the Lego Serious Play. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, right on time. That's brilliant. That is brilliant. It gives us also some time left for some questions. Okay. So there was questions, for example, how do you ensure that all voices are heard during the creation of the shared stories? Okay, so there are a few comments that I see on the chat that there is a confusion between facilitation and coaching. When we are using a tool, or when basically it's about tools, right? We are not, it doesn't mean that we step back there and we observe. It doesn't mean also that we don't practice the team coaching competencies there. Actually, the opposite, because facilitation doesn't require us to use tools, for example. It's like the facilitation of a conversation they have, of a meeting or something else. I gave an example of one of the supplementary team coaching competencies about the participation. That's actually, for us, it's our skill, our competence to encourage participation and contribution by all team members. Now, how we are going to do it, that's part of the training and the practice that we need to have. Now, any questions, Carl, that I missed?
A lot of them touched on the difference between coaching and facilitation. There are also some practical things on a Lego session. How long does it take? Half a day, a day? That's a more practical one. Great. A lot of positive feedbacks on the session. For Ellen, you said you use lots of activities. How do you keep the balance between facilitation and coaching? There we go again.
Yeah.
Do you want me to respond to that, Carl?
Like you wish.
I think we have
Yes.
already addressed it, but go ahead and add, please.
Okay, I just I feel one thing that would be helpful to clarify is that when you go through team coaching credentialing, they have all of these different options there, and you use all of them in a session potentially. But to be, to meet the ICF criteria, obviously you have to do some straight, authentic team coaching aspects, but you use the tools in the process. And yes, I appreciate that, Katerina. So to team facilitate and that back and forth that you're doing, for me, it looks more like when the team's early on, I am working more and doing more to, I'm not going to say guide because it's still always driven by the team, but it's more that somewhat facilitation based on where the team is to help them connect, communicate respectfully, be curious, and all of those things we do in coaching. I ask thought-provoking questions if something comes up, and I always remind them when we start, I tell them we just don't talk about their housekeeping or engagement rules. I also share what you can expect from me as a team coach. So they know that if there's something that comes up and I ask them a question, I'm a third party. I don't necessarily know their answer. They know their answers, but I may ask something to have them dig deeper. So facilitation it's an in and out process, because if I'm in a room and I'm team coaching and they are all engaging and sharing and making progress, I'm hands off. I let them run with it. I step in when I see that not everyone has contributed. I may use my elephant and say, okay, let's go around the room and everyone share your thoughts on where we are. So it is an in and out process, always focused on the team and where they are and them driving the conversation. I hope that helps some.
Absolutely. And there are also, there's a question about any advice that you can offer to any uncredited team coaching model. The first thing that I would say is to understand who you are as a team coach. That's the first step. About the confusion with the activities is like, I work a lot with different tools, activities, objects, etc. Why? Because they give more channels of communication. They can also spark different, like they can spark an awareness that if we were just sitting down and asking that question, they wouldn't have. I think we had it in one of the sessions, and it was the model that they were moving around and they would position themselves how close you feel or how far away you are with that. It seems like, oh, you just facilitate an exercise where it's more than that, because with a team that when we used that, something similar, they looked around and they were surprised how far away some of the team members were feeling. They weren't feeling so connected. So, so that's an example. So we are really, really grateful to Ellen, Linda, and Sandy for sharing their unique approach and work with teams. We are really grateful for everyone who has joined us today and who have been with us these 6 days, sorry. If you want to connect with Ellen, Linda, and Sandy, please feel free to do so. And if you want to learn more about us as 𝗕𝗀𝗃, well, we are available there for you. We're posting also everything on the chat. And as it was mentioned also in several sessions, it was that the world needs more team coaching. And especially where we are now, and the challenges that we are facing, and the realization also of how more connected we are than we thought we were like 10 or 20 years ago. So the world needs more team coaching. That means that the world needs more team coaches. You mentioned the maturity of the team coach, and I'm glad you mentioned that. That means we have that responsibility for our maturity. There is a question also about the recordings. The recordings will become available, so everybody will have the opportunity to access the recordings. So that's one less worry for all of us. And that's the last session of the entire summit series. And we are super...
Let me use 10 seconds to acknowledge, celebrate, and appreciate my wonderful colleague Katrina for her immense efforts for organizing this great summit. If it weren't for her, I don't believe 𝗕𝗀𝗃 would have been able to do so. So Katrina, thanks a lot for everything you did for the entire coaching community as a whole, and for 𝗕𝗀𝗃 specifically. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you. Well, they say it takes a village, and we have an amazing village of the team coaching community. And it's really heartwarming to see how much we care, regardless of where we are living at. So, yeah. And that's it up. Thank you, everyone. And we hope to see you. Well, we will follow up with all of you with the recordings, and we hope to see you in the next one. You gave us energy and inspiration to continue. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.